Every morning, 67-year-old Tom opened the doors to his tiny coffee shop in a quiet town outside Minneapolis. No Wi-Fi, no fancy syrups, just coffee, a counter, and his smile. Locals knew him as Mr. Tom. Some said his coffee was just okay, but everyone agreed his stories were gold. Young people came not just for caffeine, but for advice. Strangers spilled secrets they hadn't told their families. And somehow, Tom always knew the right words to say. But what they didn't know was that Tom was once worth over $30 million. And he lost it all. 20 years ago, Tom was living a different life: suits, boardrooms, private jets. He was the CEO of a fast-growing tech startup in Chicago. Life was perfect on paper, until it wasn't. The dot-com crash hit. His investors pulled out. Overnight, everything he built collapsed. He went from penthouse to pavement in under a month. No more assistants. No more headlines. No more confidence. Tom could have quit. He thought about it. There were nights when he stared at the ceiling, wondering if he'd ever feel like a man again. But something changed the night he walked into a rundown diner at 2 a.m. The cook there, a woman in her 50s, was flipping pancakes with a radio playing jazz in the background. She smiled at him, poured coffee, and said, "You look like someone who forgot that life ain't over unless you decide it is." He didn't respond, just nodded. But that line stuck with him. Life ain't over unless you decide it is. The next day, Tom applied for a job at a gas station. Not because he needed the money, he needed to feel useful again. For 2 years, he worked minimum wage jobs, learned to listen more, talk less, started journaling, reflecting, rebuilding. Then one day, while sweeping the sidewalk outside that gas station, he had a thought. What if I opened a coffee shop? Not to get rich, but to give people what I needed back then. A place to just feel human again. He sold his last remaining stock from his former company, barely enough to rent a small space. And that's how Tom's Place was born. No PR campaign, no Instagram, just him, a coffee pot, and a handwritten sign on the door. Come in tired, leave inspired. And somehow, it worked. Over the years, Tom's Place became more than a coffee shop. It became a sanctuary. Jobless kids found direction over a cup of joe. Lonely widows found companionship. Veterans came to feel heard. Tom didn't judge. He didn't lecture. He just listened and shared the one thing life had taught him the hard way. Purpose isn't about money or fame. It's about how many hearts you touch before your story ends. One day a customer asked, "Tom, don't you ever miss the millions?" Tom smiled and said, "No, I've got something richer now." Meaning, that customer turned out to be a producer from Los Angeles. A month later, Tom's story was on a national podcast. Within weeks, his tiny coffee shop was flooded. Tourists, bloggers, even a Netflix scout. But Tom didn't expand. He didn't open franchises. He didn't raise prices. He just added a bigger table. Because he believed, deeply, that if you've got a table, you share it. Last year, at 66, Tom was honored by the state for lifetime contribution to community well-being. He used the prize money to build a community garden next door. Today, Tom's Place doesn't just serve coffee, it serves hope. And Tom, he still wakes up before the sun, still opens the door himself, still wipes every table with care. And when someone walks in looking lost, he offers them the same thing that saved him that night in the diner. A warm cup, a smile, and a reminder that no matter how